This is Dungeon Master Bloba coming at you with another video. This time, it's because of something I've seen on Facebook, and I just got done watching a video talking about it by the guy who made the post on Facebook. It's from a YouTuber named Juice. I'll leave a description, and I'll leave his channel in the description. It's about party composition. This is kind of a response video, but kind of a standalone video at the same time. Essentially, the reason I'm making this video is he did make some fine points in his video, which I will leave in the description below, and I just want to reinforce some of the points he made by saying I have been a DM for going on 7 years now, maybe a little longer if you count my really early days that weren't really serious, but I've been seriously DMing for about 7 years now, and I have never had more than 4 players at once. I have one game in my entire career that was 4 players. Aside from that, I'd say a good 80% of it was 2 players, and then the odd 20% was 3 players. So I'm pretty much, my entire DMing career has revolved around having too few, and I use few with quotations because I don't honestly believe there is such a thing as too few players, but my entire DMing career has gone around DMing too few of players. And I want to support the fact that you do not need, I repeat, do not need every single role field. This isn't World of Warcraft. This isn't some other MMO that you need to go and get a healer, a tank, and a DPS on. I ran a game level 1 to 14, 2 players, both of them were rogues, both of them took the prestige class of an assassin. 1 to 14, they didn't die. They got into some pickles, as you might suspect, but it was all for the better. I think I threw in 1 or 2 NPCs along the way, so you don't need people to hold their hands, and I did not give them any special treatment. They did not get any extra loot, any extra anything. It was just there. I built the campaign around their character ideas, and it worked phenomenally. I also did a game with 2 paladins in it. I've done plenty of games with just a paladin and a fighter, because that was some of my players' favorite classes to play. But the point I'm getting across here is you don't need to coddle your players. I think that's the right word. I apologize if I was wrong. But anyways, you don't need to just, baby your players up for, just because there's few of them. Just adjust your DMing style to accommodate. Obviously, if you had a plan for 7 orcs to attack a group of 5 players, then you don't want to have those same 7 orcs attack 2 players, but like just lower it down to maybe 3 or 4 orcs attacking them, and then they would stand about the same chance as the other group would have. Like I've said, I have never had a game that it was the player's fault that they died because they fixed like 2 paladins or something. That paladin game, by the way, ran all the way to level 19 without them dying in it, and it was literally just those 2 guys. They had literally, I think there was one adventure they had a companion on, but aside from that, they ran the entire campaign with just the 2 paladins. And yes, that's just another example. But this is not a bash on NPCs or players that you play, like the Dungeon Master takes control of. GM PCs, as Juice called it. I've had one of my longest running and favorite campaigns of myself and my players had 2 NPCs from the get-go. 2 of them were in the party from the start. One was a kobold adept shaman who was swore his services to somebody for saving him from slavery, and the other was one of the players. It was a rogue, and she was one of the players' wife. It was one of the players' wife, and she was a rogue. And then after that, as it went along, they picked up and dropped various NPCs, but the NPCs would help them, and then they'd go back to doing whatever they're doing, come back help them later. Never, just whatever you do, don't come up with ludicrous reasons for why NPCs can't help your players. Like, if your players save a guy from slavery and they ask him for some help, unless he's of some type of an evil alignment, he's most likely going to return the favor the best he can. And if you've ever played War of Darkness, the Allies background is a great example. It says that they will help you, but they request just as much help in return, if not more, help back. And NPCs can be gloriously done if you do them right. Literally, some of the NPCs I've had were the highlights of the campaign to my players. Not like they were the highlights as in they were stealing all the glory, taking all the spotlight, but they were their personalities and everything were just beloved by my players, and the campaigns wouldn't have been the same without those NPCs in there. And most of the NPCs I'm referring to were party members or people that the players associated with commonly. You don't have to make the NPCs weak either. It's just I would suggest not making them stronger than the players though, because that might cause a problem. And if they are stronger, make it not by much, but unless that's the kind of game you're running, like particularly maybe if your players are a good here, I'm gonna give you a adventure idea. You get 2 for 1 here. Say your players are criminals and they're being pardoned slightly, and they have a guardsman or a constable or whatever who's a couple levels higher than them that is escorting them along, having them help with investigations to their old criminal activities or something like that. That could be an example of where you might use a higher level NPC with the players. I had a time where there was an NPC that was well above my players in War of Darkness. They were playing Vampire. If you know what Vampire is, there was a Justicar, which is essentially one of the top-ranking people, while the players were roughly mid-rank. And D&D, I guess you could equivalent. They were roughly level 5, I guess, and he could have been considered roughly level 10 in D&D comparison. And he was a temporary party member, but I've had it planned so that there was another bigger boss than the normal boss the players were going to fight, that the boss the players were going to fight had allied himself with, and the Justicar with his companion were fighting this guy while the players fought this other guy. And as far as, like DM Juice said, build it around your players. This is what I always do. Before I come up with a campaign idea, I'm like, hey guys, we're going to play D&D, or World of Darkness, or Call of Cthulhu, or what have you. And then I'm like, what do you guys want to make? And they're like, okay, here you go. This is what I want to play. It's either they say, I want to play a Paladin, I want to play a Rogue, I want to play a Sorcerer, or whatever. And then I have the campaign idea, but I build the encounters around the players. And it worked out phenomenally every single time, outside of the few extremely unlucky rolls that's happened. One time, my players were evenly matched with an enemy adventuring party, and yeah, they kind of got destroyed because of bad rolls. But it had nothing to do with their lacking of party rolls. If they had a cleric in there, it wouldn't have helped them any more than there was. I think they were playing yeah, there was a cleric and a paladin with my players, but it wouldn't have really helped them to have a mage thrown in there, like a magic user. So, you guys, I'm gonna wrap this up now. You was saying you do not need to fill your party roles. NPCs can be great if done correctly. He's gonna make sure that you weave it in there so that they're not stealing everybody's spotlight. But if you do them correctly, they're one of the best add-ons that you can do. And this is me speaking from 7 years of experience of DMing 3 or less players. NPCs are beautifully done if you do them right, and don't clobber your players with like 10 NPCs. Do it like 2, maybe 3 at the most. I usually only do 1 or 2 NPCs, but I have done as high as I think 4 at once before, and that's for more experienced DMs who can really role play on the fly like that. But that worked great too. I've never had a bad experience with NPCs before personally. And as far as I'm sorry, I told you I was wrapping it up, but just more stuff's coming to me as I go on. But as far as giving your players extra loot to make up for it, I've never had to do that, and honestly I think if I did, it might have broken my game's balance a little bit, and maybe even broken the lore a little bit for letting like fighters read magic scrolls and stuff when honestly, it's not really needed. Like I said, I ran a game till 14 with 2 rogues who never met a magic user in their game outside of a couple random NPCs who'd never really stuck with them. And the same thing, I run the game with a couple paladins who never had any need for magic scrolls, like magic missile or polymorph or anything like that. But don't don't run the risk of making your players overpowered and breaking your game's balance and making it really hard for you to um, tell the story you want to tell because you've given your players too much power and it's too late to take it back. Um, if you're experienced DM and you really want to play a higher challenge difficulty campaign, then I would say you can go ahead and give your players extra loot, but just make sure you're prepared for the ramifications. If you're a new DM, avoid it at all costs because I've made that mistake by giving my players too much power before, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and it almost ruined the campaign. And so, yep, this has been Dungeon Master Bloba, giving you guys words of wisdom from my many mistakes and successes I've made throughout my career of DMing. If you liked this video, like it, leave a comment, favorite, subscribe, tell me what you want to see next. Dungeon Master Bloba, signing off.